Hi everyone, welcome back to Kristen's Epic Adventures. Today we're going to be talking about the Artificer class from the Eberron book. So make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you know when our new videos are up, and if you found this video helpful, give us a like and a thumbs up so more friends can find us. So today we're going to take a look at the Artificer class from the Eberron book. Now this book was released, I believe, last November, and from a little bit of research that I've done, I believe the Artificer was a class that was around in 3rd and 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons, but the 5th edition removed it. And they finally put it back. And having the Eberron book and reading through this class, I'll tell you, I'm very excited about this. I want to play an Artificer so bad. It sounds really cool, whether you're into like steampunk stuff or not. Either way, it sounds very cool, and I just want to go over some of the basics about it. From what I've heard, it's the first time they've introduced a class back into the game in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, I think they said. You know, they've added like sub-races and different class features that you could add, or modifications or variants, but not a whole new class. So this is pretty exciting. So I have some notes here, and I want to go over this class with you. It uses a D8 as its hit dice. Not too bad. Not real low, not real high, kind of in the middle. And its main base score that it works off of is intelligence. When you're building an Artificer, you want to put your highest score in your intelligence. And this is because Artificers use their intelligence to do a lot of tinkering and to make what they call, what are they called again? Infusions. This just sounds so cool to me. It sounds so steampunky. I love it. But again, whether you're into steampunk or not, I think you might really like this class. I did make some notes, but then I thought too, like, why am I wasting paper when I could just go through the book as well? So I might do a little bit of both here. So Artificers are actually proficient in light armor, medium armor, and shields, simple weapons. Now, they're also proficient in Thieves' Tools, Tinker's Tools, and another artisan tool of your choice. They have proficiency at Constitution and Intelligence saving throws. And when you're building one, as far as skills, you can choose 2 to be proficient in, from Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Nature, Perception, and Sleight of Hand. You can start with 2 simple weapons of your choice. A crossbow, either studded leather armor or scale mail, and either Thieves' Tools or a Dungeoneer's pack. There is also an optional rule, if your DM allows it, to have firearm proficiency. So it's kind of up to your DM whether or not you have firearms in your game. And if your DM wants to include those, there is Chapter 9 of the Dungeon Master's Guide talks about using firearms in your game. Normally, when you're using, D&D 5th edition in a pretty fantasy setting, there's not really any firearms around, but it's something that is definitely available in Eberron, or again, D&D can be whatever you want to make it. So if you want to have firearms in your game, you can. Okay, some of the other things I want to talk about for Artificers. They also recommend... So they recommend putting your highest score in intelligence, your second highest score in either Constitution or Dexterity. And they suggest taking the Guild Artisan background. Now you, again, can build him however you want, him or her. You can take whatever background you want. Taking the Guild Artisan is going to make you proficient in Insight and Persuasion, and give you another type of artist tools to be proficient in. So it actually ends up giving you, if you take that background, 4 different tool proficiencies. And when you think about it, an artificer is kind of like an inventor. So having proficiencies in as many different tools as you can is really a plus. So that's going to give you Thieves' Tools, Tinker's Tools, another one of your choice, And then the Guild Artisan background gives you another one of your choice for a total of 4. You do get the Thieves' Tools in your starting equipment, unless you choose the Dungeoneer's pack. So at least you start out with those 2. The Guild Artisan background might actually give you another set of tools, so you can also start with the Tinkerer's tools, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Again, I haven't actually played one yet. I just really want to, really bad, because it sounds like such a cool D&D class to play. Now an Artificer can also cast spells, and in the very beginning, your set of Artisan tools is your spell casting focus, which I think is pretty neat. Once you get up to level 2, which doesn't really take too long, you can actually use one of your infusions as a focus instead. So you got a couple different options there. At level 1, for spells, you're going to get 2 cantrips and 2 first level spell slots. Now, as soon as you hit level 2, you also get to know 4 different infusions and have 2 infused items at all times. And I'm kind of going to go over the different types of infusions and what infused items are. They're very cool. Also, intelligence is your spellcasting ability, which is why it wanted you to put your highest score in intelligence. Let's see, what else do I have in here for notes? You also get magic tinkering, which is pretty cool. You can make all sorts of little non-magical items that in the beginning at low levels just kind of do all kind of interesting things, which are really useful for a lot of interesting role-playing opportunities in the beginning of your game. Very cool. And as soon as you actually hit level 2, you can do the infusions. Now, infusions are taking a non-magical item and making it magical. There's so many cool things that you can do with the infusions. And I believe there is a list on page 61 of the Eberron book, goes through the different infusions that you can have. There is some really cool stuff in here. Some of it is literally enhancing different magical items, so it requires that item to begin with. Like it may require a suit of armor, a martial weapon, a wand, or something like that, or a pair of boots. And you're kind of putting a magical infusion into that item and kind of creating a magic item in a sense, in a different rule set rather than the original Dungeon Master rules for creating magic items. They'll give you all sorts of bonuses to your character, whether it's armor class bonuses, damage bonuses, ability check bonuses, all sorts of cool things like that. My favorite is there is a homunculus servant, so you can kind of create a little special homunculus that serves you, which I think is really cool. It says the item you infuse serves as the creature's heart, around which its body instantly forms, and you get to decide what it looks like. It says some artificers prefer mechanical looking birds or even winged vials or miniature animated cauldrons, which I thought was really cool. There's a stat block in here for your homunculus servant, and it can fly around, can do all sorts of things for you. It tells you how many hit points it has, and you basically are using your bonus action to control your homunculus. Now, one of the things I thought that was really cool is, as a reaction, your homunculus has the ability to deliver a spell for you that requires touch. Normally, if you want to do a spell that requires you to touch the person or the creature you want to cast it on, obviously you have to be right next to them. This gives you the opportunity to not have to be right next to them as long as your homunculus is next to them. You kind of cast the spell through them and they touch the object of the spell for you as their reaction, which I thought was pretty cool. And the homunculus just has to be within 120 feet of you. So now you can do touch spells from quite a distance. Some of our healing spells are needed to be touch spells. My other favorite is replicating a magic item. That's also an infusion. So instead of taking an item that already exists, like a weapon or some boots or some armor, and infusing it to make it magical, there's actually lists in here at different levels of what magic items you can just create with your infusions. And this is as early as second level. Second level, you can actually replicate a bag of holding, a cap of water breathing, goggles of night, sending stones. Very cool stuff to have in your campaign that early on in the game. 6th level, you can make things like a cloak of elven kind, and these are only a few of them. There's more on the list. Ring of water walking. By 10th level, you can make bracers of archery, eyes of the eagle, a head of disguise, and it goes up to 14th level. Just from your infusion, you can actually create a ring of protection, boots of speed, an amulet of health. So that's pretty cool. That's because an artificer is like an inventor, right? So you're able to make those things, which is really neat. Also, and that's infusions, right, that you get at 2nd level. And you know a certain number of them, and you can have a certain number of infused items at a time. If you want to create an additional one, the oldest one disappears. Once you get up to 3rd level, you already get to choose a specialty. There's some really cool specialties in here for artificers. You can choose between an artillerist, an alchemist, or a battlesmith. An alchemist sounds so cool to me. That's the one I think that I want to try playing the first time I try it. But the other ones have some really cool things too. Now, an alchemist does get to do some really cool things like make experimental elixirs. This is so neat that like the first elixir you make, because it's experimental, you don't even know what it's going to be. You actually roll a d6, the DM looks at a table and tells you what the elixir you created did. Now, you can also spend a spell slot to create an additional one, and then you get to choose what it does. And if I can find real quick, I don't know if I can find them quick, but I'm going to try the actual list of elixirs. Oh, here we go. You can make healing elixirs, swiftness, which increases your speed, resilience, which gives you a bonus to your AC, boldness, which adds a D4 to attack rolls and saving throws, flight, which gives you a flying speed. So all of a sudden for 10 minutes you can fly just because the artificer made an elixir. This is just sounds like so much fun. Or a transformation one, which basically lets you do the alter self spell. So those are the different elixirs you can do. And that's, again, right at 3rd level. And then, let's see, we have the Artillerist, which, as you can imagine, does a lot with artillery. Very cool. You can create eldritch cannons. So you have the ability to either make a small cannon, like anywhere in a 5-foot square, if you're using, a grid or anything, or a tiny sized one that you can hold in your hand. The cannon has an AC of 18. The HP depends on your artificer level. And you can control it with your bonus action. So it's like a little mini cannon on legs, and you can control it to like walk around and move somewhere. And it can either like fire shots at enemies, or I believe you can actually create a cannon that will heal you and your allies if you're close to it. So cool. I really like that a lot. And then the other one is the Battlesmith, which the coolest thing about the Battlesmith, in my opinion, is that you can, your tinkering lets you make a steel defender. So this is either like a 2-legged or 4-legged creature that helps you out. And actually in the book, there's actually a picture of like a dog made out of steel armor, which is so awesome. So it can do force attacks. It can restore hit points to itself if you tell it to take the repair action, or it can deflect, which gives disadvantage to something that's trying to attack somebody in your party. Very cool. But again, you can make this defender look like anything you want. If you want it to look like an animal, that's cool. You can do that. And it has a stat block in here for the steel defender. Very awesome. Awesome. And then once you get up to higher levels, there's some pretty interesting stuff you do that I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but it is in the Eberron book. Now, being a spellcaster, the Artificer does only get spells up to 5th level. D&D spells go up to 9th level, and the Artificer will only be able to ever go up to 5th level spells. But I think they've got so much other cool stuff in here to make up for it. Between, oh my gosh, a Battlesmith having the Steel Defender, the Artillerist making little Eldritch Cannons, the Alchemist making a little homunculus. And, I mean, you do get spells. So there is a Artificer spell list in the Eberron book on page 56. And just a lot of these class features are so cool. You start getting tool expertise, abilities like Flash of Genius, storing spells inside items. Again, these are some of the things you start getting at higher levels. I made a list of some of the really cool ones. Like, I think this is what the Flash of Genius is. You can use your reaction to add your intelligence modifier to somebody else's ability check or saving throw. So that's pretty cool. Helps out your allies. Also, normally in D&D, you can only attune to one magic item at a time if it requires attunement. An Artificer at higher levels can attune to anywhere from like 3 to 6 magic items at a time. When you start out, you can only attune to one, but as you get up higher, you can attune to a lot more magic items at once. So you can store spells and objects, which I mentioned. That you don't get until like level 11. You can also, I thought this was really cool, carve sigils into like wands or staffs to make it an arcane firearm. Like, that just sounds awesome to me too. Higher levels, you can have 2 of those little Eldritch Cannons at a time, which is neat. How about getting some enemies caught in a crossfire between 2 cannons? Or maybe you can even have one of them do damage and the other one heal the party. That would be awesome too. Another thing you can do as you get higher, and I forget what it's actually called, is but you can actually send a jolt of healing energy to a target, to like one of your allies that's near an enemy. If you've just hit the enemy and you've done damage to it, you can, as a bonus, you can send a jolt of healing energy to one of your allies that's in the area too. So I have to say, all in all, I think this Artificer class sounds really awesome. I've never played it in the previous versions because, again, I've only played D&D for about, I think, a total of 3 years now, which sounds crazy to me because I usually think it's only been about a year, and then when I really think about it, I'm like, no, wait, it's been 3. It just, like I said, I wasn't around to play it in 3rd and 4th. I was around, but I didn't play Dungeons & Dragons back then. So I want to know from you down in the comments if you did play 3rd and 4th edition and you remember the Artificer, if you remember what's different, if you've played one, or even if you've played one in 5e and what you thought of it. I'm just really excited about it, and I believe there are instructions here. It was kind of made for the Eberron world, but there are some basic instructions here on how you could work it into a story that's not in Eberron. Again, Dungeons & Dragons is your game. You can make it whatever you want. It's up to the DM what goes. So it's not to say you can't play it outside of Eberron. It's certainly possible. It looks as though at some point, if you get all the way up to the 20th level, you can know as many as 6 infusions. And, 12, my bad. 12 infusions that you know how to do. And you can have up to 6 infusions at a time. I believe too, each time you level up, you can change the infusions you know if you want. You can get up to a total of 4 cantrips. And again, their spells only go up to 5th level. But I think all the other features of the class really, really make up for it. I think it's really cool. They have some cute little artwork here in the Eberron book. Here you get a guy with his little homunculus. He's a little flying one. the little homunculus he has. So some great artwork in here. And then this one I had showed you over here that has the steel defender, which looks like a metal Saint Bernard is what that one looks like, which is pretty cool. So again, let me know in the comments down below if this sounds like a cool class to you, that you want to play one of these. I know I do, but that's just my opinion. Maybe you don't want to play one at all. Let me know why. I'd love to hear from you guys. All right? Thanks so much, guys, for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.